Well, good evening, everybody. Alan Slaughter-Zinski for the Brevard Sports Network, and welcome back here to our summer series of interviews. And I wouldn't say that tonight's guest is sitting on the hot seat because, quite honestly, there isn't anything controversial to talk about when it comes to tonight's guest. What we're going to talk to tonight's guest about is how to change culture, and influence teenage girls to play basketball really, really well. And he did that this year with the Satellite Scorpions. So it gives me great honor to welcome here on the set in the beautiful BSN downtown Melbourne studios, the coach of the Satellite Scorpions girls basketball team, Mr. Greg Buttrick. Greg, how are you?
I'm good, Alan. Thanks for having me here.
Greg, I tell you what, I appreciate you coming in here today. Let's just start right there with Satellite. Last year, it was around volleyball season that you and I got together outside. We talked about what it is you were going to do for the girls' satellite basketball program. As you look back on the program now and you see what you accomplished. I mean, 2 years ago, Greg, this was a program that went 2-14 and 1-21 2 years before, the year before that. Last year, an outstanding season. I thought you changed culture. You went 8-14. I know it's not the record you wanted, but you definitely turned some things around. It's a building process. Take us through what process you got to last year and how you did it.
Okay. Well, the process at Satellite Girls Basketball wasn't easy. It was definitely a challenge, and it's due to the fact of the culture prior to me coming in was basically a losing culture. So the first thing I did, Alan, was put up a banner in the gym that said, "It's a new day at Satellite Girls Basketball." That sounds pretty simple, but I had to follow up with those expectations.
Right.
I didn't put a date on the banner, meaning it wasn't just for 2022. To me, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Right.
So that was the first thing we did. Then we actually had tryouts. They hadn't had tryouts at Satellite Girls Basketball in I don't know how long. They'd had what I called a club.
How are they doing it?
They had what I call a club, kind of like a science club. Come out and join our girls basketball club, meaning those are the type of players we had. They just wanted to be involved in a team, and therefore they weren't very good.
Get out of class early.
That and stay after school.
There you go.
And, at high school girls basketball, or let's just say in any high school athletics, as a varsity coach, you should be coaching instead of teaching. And that's not been the case prior at Satellite High School.
How do you make that distinction? What is the distinction between coaching and teaching?
Well, the knowledge of the game.
Okay.
For instance, at Satellite, we were explaining the rules. 1-and-1, 5 seconds to throw the basketball in bounds.
Lane violations.
Anything and everything that you should already know before playing girls basketball. And having said that, there's no JV at Satellite Girls Basketball due to the lack of participation. So every freshman that comes in is thrown right into the varsity fire.
Wow.
And that is not a good thing, but by the time they're a junior or a senior, if they have any skill at all, it becomes a good thing because they know what to expect with varsity girls basketball.
You also did some recruiting from other sports in your in Satellite's program. In other words, you went and saw an athlete like an Emma Terry, who had never played basketball in her life before.
And that, to me, was part of changing the culture. And
Right.
I talked to Emma and I talked to her mom about playing. Emma helped us tremendously because she was bigger than most girls.
Right.
She is an athlete.
Right.
She had never played organized basketball. But by the end of the year, she was averaging 8, 10, 12 points a game.
Right.
And she eventually, at our banquet, was the most improved player.
Wow. That's outstanding to hear. And this is an ongoing process for you. Obviously, you're constantly looking for student athletes that, because in anything that these student athletes do, the thing that every college coach in every sport will tell you, unless you're a pitcher in softball, is play other sports,
Correct.
do other things. And if you have a student athlete that is a fantastic volleyball player or, can run track or do this, basketball is a great, is a great third sport or a great second sport.
And what I like to tell the girls is, when you get through with high school and you look back, you don't want to have that question, what if? Mm-hmm. What if I would have done things differently, especially in sports, like you just mentioned, playing additional sports. And that was one of my goals coming in. And I told you, try to change the culture where some of these girls in other sports want to play girls basketball at Satellite. So this year we had a meeting right after the season, before school let out, and I had another girl show up I'd never seen before, and I'm like, what's your name? And she said, my name is Maeve Chamberlain. Well, I didn't know who she was, and I talked to you, I think, about it, and I'm like, this girl's the best lacrosse player at Satellite and the leading scorer in the county.
She's the reigning BSN Girls Offensive Lacrosse Player of the Year.
And if she wants to play basketball at Satellite, guess what? You're more than welcome to come. And I can coach an athlete.
Right.
She hasn't played basketball, she said, since middle school.
But she wants to play.
She is debating, but I'd say there's a 60-70% chance of her playing for me this season.
Maeve, play some basketball. I think you'd be outstanding at it. You are one heck of an athlete, and I think it would be great to see you out there on the floor, and it can't hurt recruiting.
Exactly. We have another girl that you'll be familiar with, and her sister was a senior this year. She was a manager for our team. Her name is Mallory Hines.
Oh, yeah.
And she is the best fast-pitch softball player at Satellite.
Yeah.
So the point is, if I can get these other girls that are good athletes, and Mallory can play some basketball, that'll just make our team that much better, and it'll help change the culture. Other girls will see things and say, hey, why not play girls basketball? Last season, not only did we have a banner in the gym, we had a team picture in the gym, we had a free throw-a-thon, we had a girls' night for bowling, we had them on a chartered bus.
Cultivating relationships.
We had a blackout game. I bought them new black jerseys.
Yeah, I remember.
I'm able to do that with my business.
Right.
If we get sponsors, great, but I'll help change the culture myself. And what that does is the other girls at the school see what's going on, see there's a change, and we get more interest. And I tell the girls, and I've told them this summer, I want you to walk around Satellite High School and be proud to play girls basketball. That's my number one goal. It's a challenge, but we've turned the corner. We're not there yet, but we're headed in the right direction.
What would say success to you?
This year, above 500.
Okay.
Above 500.
I like it. I absolutely like it. We're here with Greg Buttrick. He is the girls' head basketball coach for the Satellite Scorpions. And Satellite has really, here's the thing. Satellite is right there at the top of the list with all the the so-called sports schools in the county, if you will. Satellite's storied tradition of winning state championships is well documented. They may not be in football, okay, but Satellite has certainly. You look at what Doug Butler's doing in track. Great recent hire, speaking of football, with Coach Helton. You look at the soccer history, the women's soccer history over there, and especially what the great late Fiji Haig did at Satellite High School. To me, it just Satellite has that tradition. And wouldn't it be special, Coach, to just get girls basketball? I mean, I think what Cocoa Beach won a state championship one time on that side of the causeway, so it can be done.
Satellite won the state championship in girls basketball in 1983.
That's right.
And ever since the late 90s to the early 2000s, it just hasn't been the popular sport.
Right.
And you mentioned how good the sports teams are at Satellite, and it's just phenomenal. And that's part of my challenge, is trying to fit in there with these teams from, you mentioned football and boys basketball and girls volleyball and soccer and lacrosse and tennis and track. 8 and 14 just doesn't cut it there, because we are against some very great sports teams at this era at Satellite High School.
No doubt about it. I tell you, I'm excited. And I love being a part of it, and and that's a perfect segue into talking about what I want to get to next. I kind of want to get off sports and away from coaching, and we're going to get back to it in a second. But I want to thank you for your partnership with Brevard Sports Network and Best Private Investigations, and I want to give you an opportunity in a second here to tell us a little bit about that too, because it's a very big part of what we do here at Brevard Sports Network. We don't call them sponsors; we call them partners, because we love working side by side with our partners. So tell us a little bit about Best Private Investigations.
Okay, Best Private Investigations came about 7 years ago, when I had a friend I used to work with at the Brevard County Sheriff's Office. His name is David Cruz. He kind of twisted my arm and said, "Greg, you need to try this." And it wasn't an ambition of mine. It wasn't a goal. But I think you know me well enough. When I take on
I do.
A
task,
that's the word I was looking for, I give 110%. And not only was it a challenge, but it was a new career for me. Mm-hmm. And so I started, I got my license because I was eligible, having law enforcement and investigative experience in the state of Florida. And I got with a guy named Peter Crummy. And long story short is, he was my mentor through private investigations. He was Crummy Investigations. Matter of fact, my mom said I was a crummy investigator. So I had to go off that name and play off it.
Right.
So for 3 years I worked for Mr. Crummy and learned the ins and outs of private investigation. He had some medical issues in 2017, and he allowed me to take over his business. I kept the name the same for about 2 years, and then I decided we're going to play even further off that name. We were crummy, now we're the best.
Yeah.
And so Best Private Investigation has just taken off here in Brevard County, and now I'm all over the state of Florida doing investigations.
All of the information for Best Private Investigations is on the screen right there. The telephone number has been at the bottom of this interview and will remain there until the interview is done, because obviously with Coach Buttrick here and being the owner, Best Private Investigations sponsors this interview. I love the website. The website is, I love the guy with the hat there, and I think that's really cool looking. Best Private Investigations is proud to serve Brevard County and the surrounding areas. And I love what you say on this website. It would be fantastic if people were completely honest and things like fraud, deception, and impropriety didn't exist. Unfortunately, this is the real world, and not everyone plays nice or lives life above board. Because of this, it is sometimes necessary to seek outside investigative services. I love the fact that nobody ever wants to have to call a private investigator or even a police officer, but you have to sometimes.
And you're exactly right, Al. And once they call me, I'm pretty much a last resort.
Yeah.
Our cases are mostly cheating spouse, child custody, missing people, and we do it consistently. I like to say every case is the same, but they're different. Meaning, there's different circumstances, different areas. I've been outside of the state of Florida to investigate, but I've hired 6 different people, or 6 additional people, since I took over the business. We have just grown. You look on our Facebook page, our Google page, nothing but 5-star reviews, and I'm proud of that.
Yeah.
That's something that not only attracts business, but we like results and resolution, and we're pretty good at getting that. 25
years, Brevard County Sheriff's Department.
That was a goal. I started when I was 20 years old, Alan. They gave me a gun and a badge. I was going to save the world.
Right.
I couldn't even buy my own ammunition.
Right.
But I grew up within the Brevard County Sheriff's Office. But always being a sports guy and an athlete, I wanted to try to infiltrate sports within the agency. It was very difficult because of everybody's different schedules, and everybody's different location, from East Precinct, South, North, West, the jail, courthouse. Everybody is on a different time schedule. different areas of location.
Right.
I started with softball back in the day, and we created a team. We were pretty good. It was a men's team.
Uh-huh.
And then we had a co-ed team. We actually won an international gold medal in the year 2000. And then from there, I started teaching the police academy, and I met a guy that said, "Sarge, why don't we have a basketball team?" And I was pretty much burnt out from softball, so I said, "You need to sit your butt down. I don't got time for that." And he says, "I used to play for the Harlem Globetrotters."
That's right.
And I'm like, "All right, still sit down."
Right. But let's talk.
Well, and he ended up being on my shift. His name is Lorenzo Hutchinson.
Oh, yeah.
Today he's an assistant coach for Rockledge High School boys.
Coach Hutch.
Coached all over the place in the county, from McNair to Astronaut to Rockledge.
Great
And
coach.
he's still on my Enforcers team. But what happened was I said, "Go get some uniforms."
Hell of a
Hutch.
three-point shooter.
Oh, my goodness. I'd love to have seen him back in his day. I
Right.
got him when he was 30 years old. Long story short, he went and bought some uniforms from Walmart and said, "I know the coach for BCC. He wants to scrimmage us." I was playing back then. We lost Allen by over 100 points. I said, "Never again. I will coach this team, but we're not going to put ourselves in that situation." We were nothing more than a rec team.
What were you, a point guard?
No, I was a shooting guard.
Shooting
I
guard.
can still shoot.
Okay.
I just can't run up and down the court.
I got you.
I tell the girls, "Don't challenge me in horse."
Right.
But at any rate, so we had a team, and we started throwing little tournaments here and there. We played TPD, Titusville, Melbourne, and then we just started growing. We got teams come over from Lake County, and then we got teams that came from Miami. And I had an assistant coach named John Matthews. He was a deputy on my squad, and we called him J. Matt. And he ended up dying of a heart attack in the year 2010, right before I was retiring in 2011. But before he died, he came into the office, kind of like Hutch did. "Sarge, we need to go to the World Games in New York City." I said, "How on earth are we going to do that? We don't have money, and we're not very good."
Right.
He walked out of the office, but when he died, I said, "You know what? We're going to New York City."
That's right. Sounds like, it reminds me of Mystery Alaska. But go ahead.
We did it on tribute to John Matthews. His wife even gave me $5,000 out of his insurance when he died. I said, "You know what? You're going with us." We went there with no expectations, Alan, and finished first in the United States and third in the world. Received a bronze medal. I came back to Brevard. Sheriff Parker threw us basically a ticker tape parade. I was retired from the agency, but I couldn't quit basketball. I couldn't quit on that.
Has to be one of the proudest, if not the proudest moment of your career.
Unbelievable. And it just kicked off from there. I couldn't quit on that note. And then we went from winning a gold medal in Miami in the Florida first responder games. We went to San Diego and won a silver medal, beating Los Angeles PD.
And then, of course, Sheriff Ivey takes over, and there's no way with his competitive nature you're going anywhere.
No, he kept me around, and he even hired me as his PAL director, Police Athletic League. And the team just got nothing but better. Sheriff Ivey supports the team. He
plays on it.
He tries to play.
Yeah.
He comes out there. He goes everywhere. He's been with us to Washington, D.C., to San Diego, to New York, to Tampa. We just got back from Fort Myers last week. He is instrumental in keeping this team afloat. I took a 3-year hiatus because of opening my business, and then COVID came. And they didn't do anything for about 5 years.
Paul Alfrey coached it then, right?
Paul Alfrey and Mark Spencer.
Melbourne Mayor Paul Alfrey.
Right. And Paul is still my assistant coach to this day. We just got back from Fort Myers. We went 6-2. Finished 4th out of 19.
Where's Mayor Alfred get his basketball acumen from?
He, well, let's just say Mayor Alfred has the keys to different gyms.
I got you.
He gets to play because he opens the gym.
Right. Is he any good?
He can shoot.
Okay.
But he is a great guy, another guy to have in your back pocket when
Sure.
you have the mayor and you have the sheriff.
Absolutely.
It makes things a little bit easier.
Yeah.
You can get into gyms. You can play for free at some places.
Right. Good guys to know.
With our sheriff's team, 6-2 sounds pretty good, 4th place, but it's not what I've been accustomed to coaching this team before. Usually when you win 6 games in a tournament, you pretty much come in first, second.
Right.
Not over there. They had pool play, and then a tournament play.
Gotcha.
So at any rate, it's fun coaching that team. The difference with high school and coaching men, my guys never graduate.
That you
So
keep them.
We're pretty good for as
They
long
play
as
until they retire, or retire. Yeah, I mean, that's the way it goes. Wow, that's good stuff. And I did not know about that trip to New York. That is an outstanding story.
Yep.
Make sure you send me pictures for that.
I will. Our biggest rival, Alan, is Athens, Greece Fire Brigade.
Okay.
They beat us twice, and they asked me where Florida was. They didn't know. I said, well, how about Disney World? Okay, Disney World.
Yeah, we know where Mickey is.
Yep,
Everybody
sure
knows where the Money Mouse is.
Another thing with our sheriff's team, though, we go in the high schools. We've done it for years where we play in-school games, and the kids get to pay to miss their last class, which they do regularly, who wouldn't, to watch us play their varsity teams. We've done it about 20 different games from 2011 till just this year. Never lost one game. This year we beat Rockledge, Vieira, Merritt Island Christian, and Edgewood.
I tell you, I don't know how you do it all. Run a business, coach a girls' high school basketball team, and then run a team, a very competitive team. And look, Sheriff Ivey expects this team to compete. I mean, he is the first responders games is I think it's turned into kind of his baby a little bit, hasn't it?
Well, he calls me regularly, and we have quite a relationship to where, yeah, he expects to win. And when we don't, it's more than a disappointment. We played in countless Orlando Magic Guns and Hoses tournaments.
Right.
We've won those, and those are pretty cool. We won a lot of different games with the Sheriff's team. My overall record as a coach for them is 112-37.
Wow, 112-37. That's Kayla. I mean, that's come on. 112-30. So I know when I was with Space Coast Daily, I used to, and I know they do a terrific job of broadcasting the Enforcers games. They do an outstanding job, and I often find when I was with them was blessed and fortunate enough to be able to broadcast several of those games. You were on a hiatus at the time when I did that because you guys used to be involved with the backpack game.
Yep.
That I broadcast for the last 4 years. And, by the way, we'll be doing again this year on the 29th of July with Play Melbourne Parks and Recreation and Corey and Danielle and their great group. But, man, I just don't know how you do it.
I like to say I told you I have no life.
Right.
With girls basketball.
So how do you get an opportunity then to travel to Dallas to go watch your Cowboys play?
Well, that was right in between.
Okay.
With my business, I like to say we can't do it today, we'll do it tomorrow. But with the basketball, you've got a set schedule to where you have to be very creative to be able to do things. I like to say coaching basketball outside of my business is a break for me.
You and I could sit and this is a little known fact about me. Yes, I'm from Baltimore. I love my Baltimore Ravens. But there was a time when the Ravens didn't exist, and there was no Baltimore Colts. I hated the Washington Redskins because they tried to stuff them down our throats. I have always been a diehard Dallas Cowboy fan. So I want you to know that. I've been to 2 Dallas Cowboy Super Bowls. I went to, as a kid, yes, I went to Super Bowl 12 against the Denver Broncos.
No kidding.
And Super Bowl 13 the following year against the Pittsburgh Steelers.
What happened? Where did you go wrong?
Well, the Ravens came back, and of course, I was always a Colts fan. Grew up. My father had season tickets to the Baltimore Colts, and so when the Colts left, I just, as a young boy growing up, yeah, I mean, we had our favorite team, the Colts, but how could you not love Roger Staubach, Tony Dorsett, Randy White, Tom? Those
are the only players you got, or team that was on TV back then.
Every week. And I remember one of the first ever football games I can remember watching was Drew Pearson. I think it was Drew Pearson's Hail Mary against the Vikings. And how can you not fall in love with that team after that catch? And I just fell in love with the Dallas Cowboys. And, of course, when I got out of high school, I had a chance to either go to college or move to Dallas with the company I was working with. The guy said, look, you can go to college in Dallas if you want, but I need you to go to Texas for a couple of years. And I did. And I lived in Dallas for about 2 years.
Oh, wow.
Uh-huh. And unfortunately lived there for the 2 worst years in franchise history. I lived there when they fired Tom Landry and hired Jimmy Jensen.
1989.
88 and 89, I lived there. And I went to the pork chop game with Buddy Ryan.
I remember that.
I went to 2 Thanksgiving Day games, the game against Houston and Warren Moon. Greg, I am a diehard Cowboy fan.
Well, there's a story on how I became a Dallas
Let's
Cowboy.
hear it.
And you mentioned Baltimore, Maryland. Well, I was born at Andrews Air Force Base.
Okay.
And right outside of Maryland in Washington, D.C. My dad was stationed there in the Air Force. And I am the youngest of 4 kids. And my dad and my whole family were diehard Washington Redskin fans. And my dad had season tickets back in the early 70s, and he would go to all the games. He'd take my brother, my sister, my other sister, my sister's boy. He would never take little Greg because he thought I was too young. I was only like 4 or 5. So, Alan, I started loving the team they all hated.
God bless you.
Cowboys. And I would ask for ponchos and helmets and different things for Christmas, and lo and behold, under the tree, there they would be.
Right.
And so I became a Dallas Cowboy fan. I'll never forget when I got my poncho, I told my dad, would you wear this to the game, please? He's like, son, I can't wear that. I won't be coming home, you know. That was back in the days where you had to pay people to watch somebody from stealing your hubcaps.
Exactly.
Wearing the wrong jersey.
Right.
Busing was prevalent, and so I didn't know any better.
Right.
But I have just been a fan to this day. And you mentioned going out there last year. We went to the New York Giants game, and it was quite a flight getting out there, but we ended up going to a game which they beat them pretty good. And to me, when you go to a football game, especially traveling that far, you want to choose a game where you pretty confident they might win, but it doesn't always happen that way.
The last Dallas Cowboy football game I attended, two. I saw the Ravens beat up on them pretty good in 2000 when the end of the Aikman era was there. But I went down to RFK Stadium on Labor Day for Monday Night Football game the year after they had beat Buffalo the first time.
Okay.
And no Emmett. Emmett was holding out. And the first play of the game, Aikman hits Michael Irvin for an 80-yard touchdown. Irvin is dancing in the end zone. It's 7-0. I'm in RFK Stadium. And you know, in that place rocks, literally.
Did
rocks.
You wear a Cowboy jersey?
I did.
Okay.
I was 27. I didn't care
Right.
what the end result would be. And the Redskins went on to then beat the Dallas Cowboys like 35-7 that night. That was the last touchdown the Cowboys scored. And a week and a half later, Jerry Jones signed Emmitt Smith to the biggest contract in running back history in the NFL. And the Cowboys, of course, would go on to win that Super Bowl and then lose to the 49ers the next year and then beat Pittsburgh. But it was only natural to be a Cowboys fan because living in Baltimore, Pittsburgh was the ruination of all Baltimore sports. And that was a big Dallas rivalry. And, of course, you hated Washington sports. Right. So it was just natural. We are talking to Greg Buttrick here on BSN. All right, we get set to wrap up here with Greg Buttrick of Satellite Girls Basketball. And, Greg, I got to be honest with you. This is one of my favorite interviews because I really do, as much as people think I love to incite at times, I really do love to just sit here and talk about the good old days, and I guess that leads me as we get set to close here. The future of Satellite Girls basketball. Obviously, I know you're not going anywhere. I know how proud you are of what you have done so far, but I'm going to ask you where you see the program. You want to be at 500 by the end of this year. Look 5 years down the road for me. Can this program accomplish what Pete Ballard did in '83?
I think the first goal is, Alan, is to turn that corner with changing the culture, getting girls wanting to participate like we talked about. 5 years from now, I'd like to see us have a JV program. I'd like to see us be able to compete for a district championship. That's hard when you're competing against Palm Bay and Cocoa. But, the interest in girls basketball is not the same at Satellite as it is at some of the inner city schools, and that's what needs to change. I'm waiting for that one girl to transfer from the Air Force just to come into Satellite to be able to play, to lead us to the next level.
Right.
That hasn't happened yet. We've shown some more interest, but we haven't turned the corner. 5 years from now, I hope we're around the corner.
Greats like, Greg Hostetler, and what he did at Astronaut, and he was the coach at Cocoa Beach that I think took that boys team. Was it the boys or the girls?
Gowdy was the girl.
Gowdy. I'm sorry, Gowdy. Hostetler was at Astronaut. I apologize, I got that mixed up. Gowdy. Sorry, TJ will kill me for that one.
Yeah.
But how the tables have turned. That 83 championship that you talk about.
That was Pete Ballard.
Pete Ballard. Right. I got that right?
Yes, you did.
Because I've only been in Brevard County for 13 years, so bear with me when I make these mistakes. But 30-plus point win over Miami Northwestern. Oh, how the times have changed.
Correct. It's just to me, the sports, the priority is not there. At Satellite, it's girls volleyball, soccer. Lacrosse has taken the next step to a new level. Softball, we have a new coach, and they had an above 500 season. Kudos to them. Like I say, we have a lot to look up to as far as the sports at Satellite, and we want to be at least on the same level, meaning over 500, competing every year for districts. It can be done, but it's a process, and I love a challenge, and I'm here to stay.
Gotcha. Well, I tell you what, I certainly appreciate everything that you have done with us, for us here at Brevard Sports Network. Our partnership with Best Private Investigations, and again, the information is all right there on the bottom of the screen. And of course, 321-508-4492, bestprivateinvestigations.com. It's best hyphen or best-private-investigations.com. And if you are in need, and again, here's hoping you're not, but if you are, use the best in Best Private Investigations, bestprivateinvestigations@gmail.com. If you need to stop by, 635 East New Haven Avenue, Suite 609 in beautiful Melbourne, Florida. You get the final word, Coach.
Well, I just want to appreciate you and Caleb for having me here today. It means a lot. It helps me change the culture to get not only our team out there to show that, we're trying to change the culture, so to speak. I got to talk about my BCSO Enforcers team and, of course, my pride and joy Best Private Investigations. And like you said, Alan, it's a partnership. I don't mind supporting someone that looks out for not only athletics in high school in the community, but you have turned the corner. You cover athletics everywhere.
Thank you.
And it means a lot to me, and you will always have my support. So thanks again for having me.
I appreciate that. And we want to thank, of course, Caleb Brown for all that he does behind the camera. So for Greg Buttrick and Caleb Brown, I'm Alan Slaughter-Zinski for BSN Summer Series 1-on-1. Have a great night, everybody. And as always, make it a sports night.